Fridays with Charles.
My father had a grocery store, and I grew up in suburban New Jersey. And during the Depression, now that's not something you had yesterday afternoon. This was the Great Depression. The one thing is, because of the businesses he was in, we never went hungry. There was food. So that had a tremendous effect in my life. I cannot stand to owe money. I have finally broken myself with the habit of getting out of a taxi a block before my destination in order to save the last click on the meter. I mean, that has had an effect in my life. But it hasn't been a bad effect, because starting out with my management office, where Paul was the most obvious, he's also from the Depression. So we were able to not spend money together. You know, the dancers, we'd go on a tour. You were allowed 44 pounds on the plane. Their costumes had to be part of their 44 pounds. We didn't have any company luggage. We just didn't have the money. And this was something I never had to sit down and talk to Paul. We just both understood it. In the 4th grade, the 6th grade was doing the opera Aida, and it came to the 4th grade to look for 4 boys to do the slave dance, and I was picked. And we did that for 2 nights in a row, and everybody's parents came, big hit, right? And then they took us to the 1939 World's Fair. I thought, boy, every time I approach this dancing stuff, something fantastic happens. And I know how I prided myself in high school being the best jitterbugger. It was a source of pride for me. I played sports, but that wasn't as important as my jitterbugging. I go to college, there's not much dance there. And I'm drafted during the Korean War. And I won't go through the whole story, but I became very friendly with a captain in the ROK Army, Republic of Korea Army, who was an interpreter. And after the war ended, he took me to the first dance concert in South Korea since the war started. The great classical dancer came out, and she did the monk's dance. And it was just like, and I just went like this. And it was another chapter in my life of where dance was indelible in my being. So the next step is coming back to the States, going back to New York, entering law school, which was the thing I was supposed to do. I had the GI Bill, I had some other scholarships, and I still had to work for food money and rent money. So I was a great typist, 60 words a minute, because I dropped Latin in the 9th grade after a few weeks, and I got into a typing class. Born typist. And in our little apartment where a bunch of us lived, we were all great typists. So Brown Steno Service, which was an office, part-time supply to people, loved to call us. She said, well, just 30 seconds ago, this woman called asking if we had anybody. Why don't you go to Bennett and Pleasant on 52nd Street, which I did right away. And that was the moment. That was the moment. Dick Pleasant was the one who started American Ballet Theater. Isadora Bennett was the friend, the publicist, the manager of Graham and so many others. Then Dick and Izzy would take me to all the dance things. Back then, the 92nd Street Y was the center of modern dance. And it was a very small world of those performing modern dance and those going to modern dance. So I walk into the theater one day with Dick and Izzy, and I say to them, do you know those 2 people in the 4th row there? And they both look and say, no. And I remember thinking, you know, this modern dance audience is growing. But then Dick and Izzy got involved with bringing the Royal Danish Ballet first tour You know how you walk down the street and certain things jump out at you and other things don't? Well, all of a sudden there were posters, go to Denmark, visit Denmark, SAS Airlines, which were always there, but I never saw them before. Got on the boat, much to my chagrin, because I get seasick. And there wasn't a wave the whole time, and I was just on the edge. And I taught basketball there. I got into some Danish movies. I worked for the local Ritzau, which is like an AP bureau. I worked for the Danish Foreign Office and the tourist office. So I took Stravinsky around and lots of VIPs. Things just happened for me. Sean, who was close to Izzy, asked if she knew of anybody who could work at the Pillow as house manager and publicist. So when he offered me the job, I came back to do it. And I stayed mostly the year in between it. I did the Pillow 2 summers, 60 and 61. And finally I realized too many things were changing in the States. Things were happening. So in 62, I packed up my trunk and I officially moved back and went on the road with some music groups. And all of a sudden I had all these contacts with presenters and opened my office, the only really dance management. And things started to build, and at the same time, with the whole country changing in its attitude and changing on every single thing in our lives, with the whole change in the sexual mores and women's dress, and attitudes, modern dance came out of the closet. And the National Endowment of the Arts was born because of the change. Since I was pretty much the only dance management administrator like that, they came to me to develop 2 programs for them. One was the dance touring program, which revolutionized touring for dance companies in this country. And the other was the Artists in Schools dance component. I eventually had to give up handling the companies. The guy running these programs, even though he did not select the artists in it, was representing artists himself. So I gave up the artists. It took Paul many years to forgive me. The ADF, which was the smallest project I did in the beginning, has turned into the largest project. You need a little luck. The new president of Connecticut College, he was supposed to be pro-arts because his father was chair of Lincoln Center. Must have hated his father or something because he hated the arts. It made things extremely difficult for us. So that's why the word got out we were looking for a new home. Our panel, headed by Bob Joffrey, said, "Go south, young festival, go south." And when we came here, we went into the major leagues.